Welcome into Out of Bounds alongside with John Luck. I'm Brian Berard. We took yet another hiatus as we had some more fun stuff to do with the high school. John, you actually showed up this time.
Well,
Very
this was
proud of
actually
you.
a shorter hiatus compared to the last time we had a hiatus for Out of Bounds, like a year and a half or something like that.
I mean, we did have a bye week a couple weeks ago for another high school shoot, but likely, like I said, John, you finally showed up to one. We're proud of you. Good job.
All 3 days. Graduation.
All 3 days as well.
2 days of setup.
Exactly. So we had the pleasure of filming the class of 2018 high school graduation at BR. But we're going to stick to sports here now and start with the show. Just first, a quick reminder, though, you can watch us anytime online at btvaccess.com or by visiting us on our YouTube page at youtube.com, searching BTV Access Corporation. And, of course, you can follow Out of Bounds on Facebook, facebook.com/BTVOB, and follow us on Twitter at BTVOB. So we'll get things started now, John. The Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers have wrapped up their series, the Eastern Conference Finals. Cavaliers winning, of course, in 7 games. So, John, give me your recap of the Eastern Conference Finals.
My question is, as a basketball team, how on God's green earth do you shoot 7 for 39 from the three-point line, Brian?
That's simple. It's called choking.
That's 18%. I didn't even do that bad in math class.
Yeah, it's called choking.
You would think at some point you missed the first 25 three-pointers. You think to yourself, our defense is actually kind of holding LeBron James to 87 points in a Game 7. We couldn't bring the ball inside that little white line. The Celtics passed up in the series as a whole on so many opportunities, and there were some points that the youth of this team, i.e. Jaylen Brown, at some points it looked like he quit on this team. His shots weren't going down in Cleveland, so he said, you know what, forget this, I'll wait till the next game. In Game 7, walking down the court lackadaisically, shot, missed, oh well, I guess I'll wait till the next one. Then you got Marcus Smart not doing anything except, punching picture frames and begging for money right after the game. You play like that, you don't deserve $15 million. And to all those numbnuts out there that wanted to trade Kyrie Irving for your all-star point guard Terry Rozier was... That's right, 0 for 10 from three-point land. Game by game, Terry Rozier, 8 points, 18 points, 13, 16, 8, 28 in Game 6. Thanks for showing up, Scary Terry. And 4 points in Game 7. You want to win a Game 7. You want to try and help the youth of this team grow up. Players like Al Horford, Marcus Morris, Marcus Smart, even Terry Rozier, they have to step up. They didn't step up in Game 7. They quit on the Boston Celtics. But when you look at Game 7, you can't let that be a microcosm. It is a growing moment, but you choked. You can't get past that. You choked on your season, but it was a good season.
Well, John, please don't hold anything back and tell us how you really feel.
Right after the game, I think I told everybody that I wanted Out of Bounds to take place last week just so I could let it fly. But you know what? This is the calm and composed.
You want to know where I really have the issue with is your coach of the year that notices that your team is just shooting up brick after brick after brick from three-point land, and you sit there and you go, maybe I should probably switch up the plays. When they actually went down low to Al Horford, as you mentioned before, they were actually pretty good. I think Al Horford was 4 for 4 in Game 7 inside the paint, actually drew 2 fouls. And you're sitting there and you want to tell me that Brad Stevens is the coach of the year, and meanwhile he's sitting there going, you know what, they'll eventually hit a 3. They're bound to hit a 3, right, eventually? But no, he just sat there and just said, you keep going, doing what you're going to do, and then it does nothing.
But with Brad Stevens, he's kind of a microcosm of what the NBA is trying to be. You look at the Western Conference Finals, Houston, I think they shot something like 23 missed three-point attempts.
0 for 27, I think it was.
Something ridiculous and mind-blowing like that for a basketball team in the Final Four of the NBA, but I digress. The entire league is trying to be like the Golden State Warriors. I remember Kevin McHale was talking with one of the shows on NBC Sports Boston. He said that Danny Ainge had a vision of the NBA turning into what the Golden State Warriors are. The Celtics are trying to be the Golden State Warriors. They're not the Golden State Warriors. They're the Boston Celtics. They're a team that they'll attempt 20 or 25 three-pointers. Most of them probably won't fall, but they're also a team that will go inside, take the 17-footer, take the ball into the basket, go baseline. There wasn't a lot of baseline play offensively for the Boston Celtics. You can credit part of that to Aaron Baines having a broken nose, probably not being able to breathe on the baseline. But still, Al Horford, he was lights out for the first couple series, but against Cleveland, that's kind of been his kryptonite.
The thing to me, though, when you mention that we're trying to get everything to be like Golden State, isn't that not where a coach steps in and goes, all right, the Golden State method isn't working for us right now, let's switch it up?
Well,
I mean, you tell me that the coaching makes all the difference because of Brad Stevens, and he's doing the exact same thing as every other coach, just sitting there and watching it happen.
Well, at some point, you run out of tools to use. I mean, you don't want to credit an entire series, an entire season on injuries, but who did you want them to use? Abdel Nader coming in Game 7?
I'm not saying that, but it's you saw that there was success when you went down low with Al Horford. As a coach, you sit there and you go, three-pointer's not working. Let's try to feed this down low a little bit more. But he didn't do that.
The issue you run into against Cleveland, and I'll always say this about any LeBron team, is you go inside, go into the paint, LeBron's going to wait there. And if it's a Game 7 or a closeout game, you think you're going to get a defensive call on LeBron James, on LeBron freaking James, the meal ticket of your freaking league?
I'm not saying drive to the hoop, but when you actually were having Al Horford down there and posting up, it was actually successful.
At some point, I feel like you're only playing with time because at some point,
okay, so you want to go out and shoot another three and miss, like, and go 1 for 10?
I'm not saying shoot a three-pointer. I'm saying shoot some 17-footer, shoot something off the post. I'm not saying throw it inside and go for the dunk, but 39 three-point attempts, that's ridiculous, and you only made 7 of them. You can credit most of this on Brad Stevens and the play calling. I'll say that. But again, you can't let Game 7 be a microcosm of the entire series and the season. The season was a success. The series, the Celtics found out, you know what, we can compete against this team. Maybe next year, or maybe Philadelphia next year, because that's where LeBron might be going. But I think this Boston Celtics team, once you get Hayward and Irving back, I think this is a team that is destined for the finals.
So going up until Game 7, the Celtics were undefeated at home in the postseason. And do you think that the nerves got to the Celtics in that game because they were not playing like the style they were playing at home? They were not playing with that. To me, it felt like they weren't playing with confidence. Was it maybe the fact that it was a Game 7, you know, with one win, you're going to the NBA Finals? Do you think that maybe crept in their head a little bit?
Well, the weird thing is, if you go back to the first half, this was kind of a loose team in the first half of Game 7. They actually had, I think it was something like a 7-point lead in the first quarter. And this was a team that actually led into the fourth quarter. But at some point, you think to yourself in your head, oh my God, we're about to close out LeBron James in the Garden, take him out of Cleveland. We're about to go to the NBA Finals. At that point, you're trying to get the crowd involved, and the easiest way to get the crowd involved is by shooting a three-pointer, try and close them out. Everyone wanted to play hero ball. I think I alluded to this the last time we were on. Everyone wanted to take the ball off the court like Steph Curry, take the deep three, get the crowd into it, get on LeBron, and send them back into Philadelphia. There was too much meatball, and when you play meatball, you open yourself up to making easy mistakes, playing a little too tight defensively, you know, letting the other team just run right by you. And that's, you know, the fourth quarter, you had Marcus Morris just dragging LeBron James down, the goaltending call on Jaylen Brown. The last 2 minutes, to me, I feel like that's when this Celtics team said, we can't compete anymore. Why are we even here?
All right, so the Celtics did lose in 7 games. So we're going to move on a little bit to their roster now. As you mentioned, Gordon Hayward and hopefully Kyrie Irving comes back for all of next season. You don't know what to do with Terry Rozier. You don't know what to do with Marcus Smart. Out of all these players, you know some of them are going to have to go. Who would you like to see the Celtics get rid of?
So the issue you run into is you have the defensive styling of Marcus Smart, which is great. I mean, he was a nightmare in the playoffs for teams to game plan against because he made those plays that you don't see in the scoring column. Don't forget to close out Philadelphia. He made that football interception along the Philadelphia bench. When you talk about Terry Rozier, you have to talk about Kyrie Irving and the injury risk that Kyrie Irving has. He hasn't played a full regular season, and if you're looking to make a deep run, you need to have a sixth man off the bench the caliber of Terry Rozier. Can Rozier take over a team? Probably not, but I think he can come in and spot Kyrie a couple games, a few minutes here and there, some extended quarter breaks. So I think at this point you have to look at maybe Terry Rozier as the point guard to keep, which means you'd be shipping Marcus Smart out. But then you have Marcus Morris, who doesn't feel like he has a spot on this team once Hayward and Irving come back. So if Smart goes, Morris steps into Smart's spot, I think.
So with Gordon Hayward coming back, that's really interesting to see what they're going to do with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, because they kind of filled that gap for a little bit of the season. But now that he's back, do you kind of rotate those those players in at the 3 for the Celtics?
I think you do, but I also wouldn't be surprised sometime in the next season to hear about Jaylen Brown maybe getting traded, because you're starting to get into that area where Jaylen Brown's going to be a free agent, and can you afford to have Jaylen Brown on your roster. This is a crucial turning point for Danny Ainge. This is kind of like where the Celtics were back in 2010, 2011. What type of team do we want to have? Because Kyrie Irving's contract is going to be up at the end of next season. Gordon Hayward's going to be around for another couple of years. Horford's, I think, coming to the end of his contract. So a lot of these contracts are going to start to end. So I think Jaylen Brown might have to be the guy that you maybe put out on the market. Don't make a trade for draft picks, but just see what can you get for a player like Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum, I think that he is comparable to a Paul Pierce. There was a lot of comparisons to Paul Pierce. And I think what we saw in the playoffs maybe showed that there is a lot of hope in Tatum.
All right, so with the Cleveland Cavaliers winning in 7 games, of course, they moved on to the NBA Finals. And for the 4th straight season, we get to see another Warriors and Cavs final. But I think, let's just address the elephant in the room here. Game 1, end of the game, J.R. Smith. John, what happened? Just what happened? I know he thought that they had the lead, but come on.
Okay, let's think about some of the teams J.R. Smith has been on. The New York Knicks. That's all you need to know.
Okay.
All right, he brought the Knicks with him. I think, I'm going to bring this up a lot during the final thought, but a lot of what happened with J.R. Smith is a microcosm of what happened with the Cleveland Cavaliers. At the end of it, if you go back and watch one of the viral videos on social media, you see J.R. Smith coming back to the bench. You see LeBron James coming back to the bench. They don't talk to each other. First of all, if LeBron wants to be a real team leader, you talk to JR, say, no problem, we'll get him on the next one. Not one word. Until Ty Lue comes back and LeBron says, do we have a timeout? Ty Lue looked at him kind of depressingly, it looks like, hung his head, shaked his head, yes. LeBron threw a hissy fit.
Well, to me, part of it is I understand why he didn't call a timeout in that situation. Because when you saw J.R. Smith starting to dribble the ball, your immediate thought is maybe he's dribbling to get a shot. You know, maybe he's not trying to look for LeBron James, because LeBron really, he was kind of more towards half court at that point. But you sit there and you go, maybe he's trying to get a shot. Then when he starts dribbling up the court, that's when you call the timeout. But at that point, maybe your brain is just so fried as to what is the situation, and you just cannot comprehend anything that's going on in front of you right now. But we'll move on from J.R. Smith, enough picking on him. As we mentioned, Golden State does have a 2-0 series lead, and they're coming back now to Cleveland. After seeing Game 1 and then seeing Golden State just obliterate the Cavs in Game 2, are we seeing another 4-game sweep by the Warriors?
I don't know if it's going to be 4 games, but Cleveland has to play better than they did in Game 2. Game 2, it was Steph Curry from the parking lot. At some point, you're going to have to double up on Steph Curry. He's going to pass off to Klay Thompson, but Thompson has been a hot and cold type of shooter, and then maybe get physical down in the paint with Draymond Green, try and force some fouls. I think Games 3 and 4, you're going to see maybe a hard-working Cleveland Cavaliers team, borderline dirty Cleveland Cavaliers team, maybe forcing Golden State into situations where they have to talk about technical fouls and flagrant fouls. To win Game 3 and 4, I think, against Golden State, Cleveland has to be the grittier team, the nastier team. If that happens, then you may turn this into a best of 3.
All right, well, only time will tell what's going to happen with the NBA Finals. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk some Patriots and Red Sox. Don't go anywhere more. Out of bounds right after this. Welcome back to Out of Bounds, alongside with John Luck. I'm Brian Berard. We had a nice little heated NBA discussion.
That was just one-sided heated discussion.
Yeah, more one-sided, heated, hot take.
I took my blood pressure, so we're all set now.
All right. So we'll move on to the one Boston team that is actually playing, and that is the Boston Red Sox, as they have a 1-game lead in the American League East over the New York Yankees, although the Yankees still have 4 games to catch up on the Red Sox due to inclement weather. And you see the American League East standings right there. As usual, as we kind of expect for the rest of the year, it's pretty much going to be a race between the Red Sox and Yankees, and everyone else is kind of just out of it. But you know, the interesting thing to me is I really wanted to see how the Red Sox are going to do against elite teams, the better teams, the Cleveland and Houston. They had a 4-game series in Houston. They split the series 2-2 and obliterated them in Game 4. And actually, we saw in Games 3 and 4, the power bats started coming out. And what were your thoughts on the 4-game series alone against Houston?
Well, I think this is a great measuring stick because don't forget in July you have the trade deadline coming up here. So I think this is a series where Dave Dombrowski and Alex Cora talk to each other, go, you know what do we need here? What do we need to look for on the trade market? And, I mean, obviously there was one move that we'll probably get to in a little bit, talking about Hanley Ramirez. So I think from a pitching standpoint, there is an issue that really is sticking out now, or maybe it started to stick out at the beginning of May, and that's Chris Sale. Sale 3 and 4 over the month of May and the first start of June. But for the Red Sox, I think this was a good sign. You earned a split against a great team in the Houston Astros, a team that will probably get better in the future. And you got a couple of wins against, I think, Justin Verlander. He pitched the Saturday night game. Granted, you didn't maybe have your best bats for the first 2 games, but nevertheless, I think this is a good sign for the Boston Red Sox. We saw the train wreck in the ALDS last year. I think the Red Sox can hang around with a team like the Houston Astros or the New York Yankees.
Well, I think what we saw last year, you had John Farrell, who decided to put his best lineup in Game 3, not Game 1 or 2. And look what a funny thing happened. They won Game 3 in that series. But, you know, I'm glad that they got the split here. I was kind of concerned after the first 2 games. It looked like Houston really dominated them, and then the Red Sox had to come from behind in the 3rd game and held the lead and really never relinquished it in the 4th game against Houston. But I'm glad to see that they actually have the confidence to, you know, not only beat Houston, but to do it down there. And the good thing, I guess, for us is, you know, Houston has already played the Yankees all the times this year. They lost 4 or 5 out of 7 against the Yankees. So you're sitting there thinking, all right, well, we know we can compete with the Yankees. We know you can beat the Yankees. We can compete with the Astros. We've beaten the Astros. That gives you that confidence going in there. And, oh, by the way, they didn't have Dustin Pedroia. They didn't have Mookie Betts in that series. And you sit there and you go, okay, you didn't have 2 of your better, well, at least Mookie Betts, one of your better players. You don't really know what you got out of Dustin Pedroia because he only came back for 2 or 3 games.
It's like the 1 week.
And then he went back on the 10-day DL, but that was expected to come back from a knee surgery like he had. But you finally win a tough series without some of your better players. Chris Sale didn't have a good start, and that is something that's worrisome for the Red Sox. But then you got a quality start out of Rick Porcello that is actually starting to have a really good season this year for the Red Sox.
Porcello has been hot and cold this season, and I look at the bats as well. Christian Vasquez, he actually hit a home run in Houston, so you have to hope that maybe this is the point in the season where he starts turning things around. Jackie Bradley Jr. finally got over the 200 mark, so you have to hope that a series like Houston, although you only got a split, you have to hope that the bottom of your lineup maybe improved, maybe got something out of the series, worked on some things, and maybe this can help them out through the next few months of the season. In my eyes, the next 8 weeks is built around the trade deadline. What does Houston do? What do the Yankees do? What do the Red Sox do? If you have a top 3 that's clicking like Price, Sale, and Porcello to me, I think, is the wild card. If he can click on all cylinders, then this is a team that I think can make the World Series. But if Porcello goes back to the Porcello of a few weeks ago, then maybe this is a team that doesn't even make it to the division series.
All right, so as John alluded to earlier, the Red Sox did designate Hanley for assignment. He started off the season pretty hot. He actually was pretty good in the early part of the season, but as the season went on, he kind of struggled a little bit, and I think the Red Sox are something like 7-3 or 8-3 without Hanley Ramirez, so they're doing just fine. So did the Red Sox really need Hanley from the beginning of his tenure here at the Red Sox? Because I feel like since they got him a few years ago, really hasn't done much.
Well, you think about what he came in with. He came in with Pablo Sandoval. The only reason that him and Pablo came to Boston, I think, is to go ahead and drive up the ticket prices. But now you're starting to see the Red Sox start to improve. You have Benintendi, Betts. You'll still have your Pedroia Pink Hat lovers, Bogarts. This team can perform without Hanley Ramirez. But this was all financial, I think. If Hanley Ramirez had another, 302 more plate appearances, the team would have owed Hanley Ramirez $22 million next year. You have a very crucial time coming up contract-wise. I think Kimbrel's in the last year of his deal, maybe has 1 year left. Then you have Mookie Betts, who took you to arbitration, and he won that. Then if you want to go ahead and get into the Bryce Harper, Manny Machado sweepstakes, you need that $22 million freed up. The only issue now, I feel like, with Hanley Ramirez is where is he going to go? One of the rumored teams that is putting a flyer out there for Hanley is the Houston Astros. If that happens, they just need a DH. Hanley, I think, can DH.
He can't. We've seen the Hanley DH project here in the Red Sox. It was awful. So when they first got here, they threw him in left field. That was a disaster. Yeah. Then they threw him at DH. That was a disaster. When they put him at first base, it was actually successful because he was in the infield where he was more comfortable. He was focusing on the game a lot more. He was actually focusing at bat. But when you put him at the DH, it was awful. And I think, not only did you mention there was money, but I think it was also Mitch Moreland is having a tremendous season so far for the Red Sox. And how did you get Mitch Moreland in there with also J.D. Martinez? And it was kind of that awkward rotation of who do we put where? I mean, you're going to put J.D. Martinez out and left and then Hanley at first and Moreland at DH. Okay, then you're going to have to figure out, all right, where do we put Benintendi in center field? All right.
Swihart?
Yeah, and then yeah, we'll get to that, and eventually then you have the Blake Swihart thing where I wanted to be traded, and you had too many people, and now that you got rid of Hanley Ramirez, it's like a perfect harmony where you can have your full allotment of outfielders and put Mitch Moreland either at first or at DH. You put JD at first or DH. You can kind of rotate them in there, and then you can put a Swihart out and left or Benintendi in left and Jackie Bradley in center and Mookie in right. But now that Mookie's out, you're seeing a lot more time for Brock Holt and Blake Swihart. But I think now that they got rid of Hanley Ramirez, you could put Mitch Moreland in there. And don't forget, he was the big offseason signing last year for the Red Sox. It was kind of an afterthought this year.
And I think this is something we talked about at the beginning of the season, the fact that the Red Sox have so many players that can play at all 9 positions. At some point, you're going to start having a bottleneck, and we're starting to see that bottleneck right now with Hanley Ramirez gone. But now I think it's a fresh start for some of these younger players to come up. Now they feel like they can take over the team and they can be in the heart of the lineup here. You can have a Mookie Betts maybe move from 1 to 5 somewhere on the lineup card. There's a lot more movement, I feel like, now with some of these younger players taking over.
So the big question now, I think, on the starting pitching rotation is, what do we do with Drew Pomeranz? Because this season has not been kind to Drew so far.
Give him the wrong bus pickup time? I don't know. Just cut him. At this point, you have to consider this
you can't just cut everyone.
Well,
you get cut, you're out of here, you get cut.
Well, Dave Dombrowski did that to the minor league system, so why not?
He just traded it away.
Okay, that works. I'd see what teams will give you for Drew Pomeranz. At this point, take a box of Cracker Jacks. At some point, you have to take a loss. Drew Pomeranz is a loss. He started the season late, I think, because he had an injury at the beginning of spring training, so he came into the Red Sox late. He didn't really figure it out. And he hasn't figured it out, and I don't think he's going to figure it out. I think he's one of those pitchers that he can't pitch in the big cities. He can't pitch in a Boston or New York.
Well, he did last year.
Maybe he can. Well, last year, okay, fine. What's that got you?
It literally proved that he could pitch in a big city.
Okay, how's that doing this year?
I'm just saying, you just said he couldn't, and it proved that he did.
Don't let facts get in the way of a good opinion. The Brian Berard code of ethics here.
Yeah, well, exactly. Never let facts get in the way of a good opinion.
There you go. But just get rid of him at this point. See what you can get for him. You might get another starting pitcher, maybe package whatever you have left in the minor league system, see if someone will take them.
I think they should package my favorite player, Jackie Bradley,
JBJ.
or Christian Vasquez. Maybe package the 3 of them. I don't care. Get rid of all of them. No. So we'll wrap up our Red Sox talk with just that, and we'll move on to the New England Patriots now. As, of course, Rob Gronkowski, Tom Brady were not at OTAs. They say they're going to be at mandatory minicamp, but we saw that when the rookies got to OTAs, they were all just clueless. Sony Michel had no idea what he was doing out there. And, of course, you have Danny Etling and Brian Hoyer telling him what to do. And, of course, they're kind of, I don't know what I'm doing here. I mean, when Danny Etling, your third-string quarterback, is wearing number 58 in OTAs, that should kind of be a sign, maybe this guy shouldn't be leading things. Then you should have Tom Brady out there, should be telling them where to go. But is it worrisome that those guys didn't show up?
No, because they're at minicamp right now. They're practicing at mandatory minicamp. The workouts that you were talking about, those are voluntary. We've heard all this mudslinging going on after the ESPN article, the Alex Guerrero article, and all the stories that came out from that. We knew that they weren't going to be at anything voluntary. I mean, why are you going to go ahead and help out the guy that took your trainer away? Once you start to take money from a player, they're going to smarten up and say, you know what? We should probably go to this. There's workouts coming up, I think, in 2 weeks, something like that. Those are voluntary. They're not going to show up for that. Anything mandatory, like by the time we get to August, they're going to show up at. And this is something you see all across the NFL. The only reason we're focusing on this is because it's our bright, shiny, pristine New England Patriots. This happens across the entire league.
I understand
It's just
that.
once we saw that Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, they didn't show up for a workout. That's when it became worrisome for some Patriots fans. But once you go ahead and flip that coin game 1 of the regular season, it's going to be back to normal.
I understand that, but Tom Brady's been in the league since 2000, and how many OTAs has he missed?
None.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, why is it this year is he missing it?
Because Belichick took away his trainer.
So you're telling me that a guy got his poor little trainer taken away from him, and he has to miss this? How many times have you always heard that the Patriots out-coach you, they out-practice you, they out-prepare you, and it always starts with OTAs. We hear it all the time. Brady loves coming to these, and all of a sudden this year, oh, my trainer's not going to be there. Why should I be there? You want to know why he's really not there? Jimmy Garoppolo's not there. You notice when the Patriots drafted Jimmy Garoppolo and we heard he is the future, Brady won 2 Super Bowls with him there. That lit a fire underneath Tom Brady. Now that he talked Garoppolo out of town, he goes, Brian Hoyer's not taking my job. Number 58, Danny Etling, is not taking my job. Jimmy Garoppolo is the reason why they're not there. It's because he knows the job's mine. Why do I have to pay? I know the playbook. What do I care? By the time I get to mandatory minicamp and training camp in July, I can tell these players where to go. But year in and year out, we always hear Patriots out-prepare you. And Brady always showed up to OTAs, except for this year because the future's not behind him.
And the only thing I'll say about that is he has worked out with some of the players. He's worked out with
oh, that's a publicity stunt.
Inside the bubble?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a publicity stunt.
Okay.
That is. I mean, what else could it be, John? He's just saying like, oh, yep, I definitely care, because that was also well before all this OTA stuff. And then once this came up, they were nowhere to be found.
I think that this is just one of those things where there's a lot of smoke, but no fire.
Look, I think we're both bringing up good points. I mean, I don't really know if it's about money, because Brady and all of his years past. What?
It's not about money.
You said it was.
Don't listen to me.
Okay, all right. You're like a politician, flip-flopping left and right. I like this, but I mean, yeah, it could be a little bit about money, but I think it's more about, you know, it's your trainer, and you don't have Jimmy Garoppolo there.
I think it's more about the trainer than anything else. But, yeah.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up our Patriots talk with that. We have one final segment. It's our final thoughts. Don't go anywhere. More Out of Bounds right after this.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
I spy something beginning with S.
Snow?
No.
Snow-covered trees.
Nothing to do with snow.
Head outside to discover incredible animals and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure.
Wow.
So grab your loved ones.
Don't even.
And explore a world of possibilities.
Come on, this way.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you.
Welcome back to Out of Bounds alongside with John Luck. I'm Brian Berard, and it's time for our final thoughts. So, John, take it away.
Oh, boy, I get to talk more basketball. This ought to be fun.
Yay.
My blood pressure shot through the roof that first segment. But nevertheless, Chris Martin Palmer works for Spectrum Sportsnet. They're a station based in Los Angeles. They cover the Lakers. All fine and good. He had some ridiculous tweets saying that Tyronn Lue is a better coach than Brad Stevens. Gave out the facts and all that, better winning percentage, better playoff winning percentage, more championships, more rings. That's great. Although what he kind of forgets to mention, because he's a Lakers guy and the Celtics are better than the Lakers right now, stats-wise, is Brad Stevens doesn't have the greatest player in the planet. I don't get why Tyronn Lue is being placed on this pedestal, and this is done across the country, ESPN, Fox, anything like that. When you talk about playoff experience, that's where your coaching kind of comes into play here. Tyronn Lue, and this even goes back to the Celtics series as well. When you talk about the starting five and the career playoff games they've played in, combined, the Cleveland Cavaliers have an experience of 599 overall playoff games. The Celtics, 251. This is all based on LeBron James. That's what this wannabe NBA writer for some low-rate cable outlet forgets to see. The coach he's boasting about is a coach that got punked out by Allen Iverson, had his ankles broken, Iverson walked over him. I don't get why Tyronn Lue is being praised as such a high-rated coach. Brad Stevens is the coach of the year. Did he make some questionable calls in Game 7? Yes. But I don't get why he has to take a back seat to a coach like Tyronn Lue.
How many votes did the fellow coaches give Brad Stevens for Coach of the Year?
They gave their award to a guy that got canned the next day.
Yeah, and Brad Stevens won one road playoff game this year.
He made it to Game 7 against the king of the NBA.
And that coach won on the road, right?
thanks to
That's what I
meal
thought.
ticket playing. But
That's what I thought. All right. My final thoughts, I'm going to keep this really brief. I'm going to stay local here. Big shout out to Gina Ricciotti of the Bridgewater Rainham girls lacrosse team. She was named the U.S. Lacrosse All-American this year, and of course, in just her sophomore season, scored her 100th career goal. So for the final time, John Luck, I'm Brian Berard. Don't forget you can watch BTV. You can watch Out of Bounds.
You can watch BTV if you want.
You can watch Out of Bounds on the BTV YouTube page. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/BTVOB, and you can follow us on Twitter at BTVOB.